Welcome back to Psalms today. We are looking at Psalm 14. These words might seem familiar. Again, let me just read the start of the psalm just to kind of feel the force, again, of the negative circumstance that David finds himself in. He starts by saying, "The fool says in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They do abominable deeds. There is none who does good. The Lord looks down from heaven on the children of man to see if there are any who understand, who seek after God. They have all turned aside. Together they have become corrupt. There is none who does good, not even one." So you'll notice the kind of beginning seems to be focusing in on an individual, the fool, but it's actually a category, isn't it? It's a category of people, the people who dismiss God and therefore are foolish, corrupt, doing abominable deeds. There's none who does good. It looks quite bleak as he looks around. God looks around and can't find somebody that stands out from this crowd. And so it's not just one problem person, it's a multitude of people who do not recognize the significance of God or the wisdom that comes from knowing God. These words, by the way, are quoted in Romans 3, if you're trying to place them. That's maybe why they seem familiar. So what do I want to point out in this psalm? Well, a few psalms ago, Psalm 9 I think it was, I introduced the concept of parallelisms, two lines that are working together to communicate a single point. That's the basic building block of Hebrew poetry. Let me just get some space here and illustrate what I mean. So you have the first line. Sometimes it's more than two lines, of course, but typically it's two. You have the first line, and then sometimes the second line is essentially saying the same thing, going in the same direction, kind of reinforcing the point. Technical term for that is a synonymous parallelism. The second line is essentially saying the same thing as the first line. Won't be a direct repeat, but it's saying the same thing, maybe in different words. Another category of parallelism is what we call the synthetic, I suppose, parallelism. It's where the first line says something and then the second line kind of takes it on, either develops it or moves it further forward or adds more information. It's kind of building on what you've had before. So it's different than the first category there of synonymous parallelism, saying the same thing in different words. Synthetic is building, continuing, developing the idea of the first line in the second. Well, we've seen both of those before, but now let me show you the kind of the alternative that we're going to see today. It's where the first line is going in a direction, but then the second line goes in the opposite direction. It's called an antithetical parallelism. Again, I'm not worried about the technical terms. The key to spotting it really is where you have this word kind of kicking off the second line. So the first line is going in a direction. You would shame the plans of the poor. He's talking now again to the fools, to the godless people who are wanting to do harm. You would, if you could, you would shame the plans of the poor. That's your intention, to bring shame on these poor people, poor in this context, people who are suffering, people who are righteous in an unrighteous world, that kind of a concept, the innocent. You would shame the plans of the poor, but there's a contrast, an antithesis here. But the Lord is his refuge. You see the power of that second line. It totally changes the journey, the trajectory of the journey, the direction of travel. The evil ones, they would shame the plans of the poor, but the Lord is his refuge. A total shift in a single line. And I think that's a good verse to ponder and pause on, just to think in terms of application for us. Even if the whole world dismisses God, even if the whole world goes after those who belong to him, those of us who belong to him can cling on to that contrast right there, that antithesis. Their plans may be evil against us, but the Lord is our refuge. That simple statement changes everything. So there you have it, Psalm 14. There's plenty more in the psalm. I'd encourage you to read it and share your highlights, encouragements, insights with others. so that maybe they will want to get into Psalm 14 too. So please do share your highlights in the comments section below, and we'll see you next time for Psalm 15.